The Hypnobirthing Toolkit is a complete hypnobirthing and birth preparation course helping you to go into the birth of your baby with confidence and positivity. It's completely self-paced with pre-recorded videos, presentations, audios, PDFs, plus monthly live classes. It's a more affordable and flexible way to learn hypnobirthing and help you have the positive birth experience you deserve. Follow the link in the description below to begin your positive birth journey today. Hello and welcome to the Bell Mama Hypnobirthing and Positive Birth podcast. My name is Ellie Waddington. I'm a hypnobirthing teacher, antenatal instructor and positive birth coach, and I'm here to help you go into the birth of your baby with a positive mindset. Every week I share my top tips, advice and amazing birth stories to help you go from fearful and anxious about your birth to positive and confident. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and let's get into this episode. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I think this season I'm doing a really good mix of solo episodes of me just chatting away to the microphone, but also the interviews with my guests as well. If there's a particular one that you prefer, do you prefer me just talking at you, or do you prefer the interviews? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Send me an email or send me a DM on Instagram, and let me know what you prefer, what style of podcast you prefer. Yeah, I'd be interested to know. But yeah, so this week I am talking to you all about what to do when those negative thoughts come knocking. You know, those really irritating little neggy thoughts. You know what I mean? Those thoughts where you're just going about your day, you're just minding your own business. Maybe you're at the bus stop, maybe you're doing your shopping, maybe you're doing some housework, or maybe you're actually doing your hypnobirthing. Maybe you are visualizing your perfect birth. Maybe you're listening to some affirmations, and then just a little thought pops up, just a little thought that just pops up and says, hey, what if you really aren't strong enough to cope with the pain? Or hey, what if something does go wrong with my baby during birth, you know? Those annoying little thoughts that then make you stop and go, oh my gosh, what if I am being really unrealistic here? What if I actually can't do this? What if my body isn't strong enough to give birth naturally, you know? And I am here to tell you that those thoughts are so normal, okay? The idea of hypnobirthing is that we're not trying to eradicate those thoughts from your head, because you're human and those thoughts are going to pop up. There's nothing you can do about it. So don't even try and stop those thoughts from popping up, because they are going to happen. And the thing to remember is that those little thoughts, they are not going to be the thing that derails your positive mindset. Those are not going to be the thing that stops you from having a positive mindset during pregnancy and during birth. What is going to stop you from having a positive mindset is if you give those thoughts emotion. You know, if you get scared by those thoughts, or if you get really upset by those thoughts, or if you get angry about those thoughts, you know, if you get really upset with yourself. And this used to happen to me when I was preparing for my positive birth with my second baby, my daughter, Annabelle. I didn't do hypnobirthing or positive birth thinking or anything like that with my first pregnancy. So it was all new to me with my second pregnancy. And I went all in. I get obsessive about things. And so I did the hypnobirthing and I practiced my hypnobirthing techniques every single day without fail. I listened to affirmations, I listened to my hypnobirthing audios, I watched positive birth videos. And if those thoughts popped up, I would get so angry with myself. I would get so frustrated with myself and be like, Ellie, you're not doing it right. It's not supposed to be happening. And it really wasn't until I came across some nice little graphics on Instagram, you know, some like inspirational quotes, and I had to stop getting angry with myself. I had to really just let these thoughts go. I stopped getting angry with myself, because it wasn't even these thoughts that were getting to me. It was my reaction to these thoughts. And yeah, that's what you have to remember, is that these thoughts in and of themselves, they're not going to cause you damage. It's the emotion and your reaction to these thoughts that are going to do damage to your positive mindset. So what I'm going to share with you now is this 3-step formula that I came up with for dealing with negative thoughts, for dealing with negative intrusive thoughts. And this is the exact formula that I share with my clients, with my one-to-one hypnobirthing clients. It works for everybody. So the first thing that you're going to do is, when one of these little negative thoughts pops up into your mind, you're just going to view it neutrally. Okay, and what the hell do I mean by that? How do you view a thought neutrally? What I mean is that you're not going to view it as something bad. You're not going to get angry at yourself. You're not going to get upset or scared by this thought. You're just going to imagine that this thought is just something completely separate from you, and it's just casually floating by. It's just like a bubble or a feather just floating by. It's just a thought. It's, you're just like, oh, okay, there's a thought. Just completely neutral to it. And the second step to this 3-step formula is that you're going to address it. And so by that I mean, if this is a thought about not being strong enough to be able to cope with pain, you're going to address what that actually means. So you're going to remind yourself, okay, actually, I know that I am strong enough to cope with pain. I've coped with pain loads of times. And actually, I know that pain during labour only happens during contractions. It's not constant pain. It's just sporadic pain. And actually, I know that I learnt a breathing technique during my hypnobirthing course. It's going to help me deal with that pain. It's going to help me ease into that pain. So you address that thought, and you kind of make it irrelevant. You make that thought not true. You don't give that thought any power, okay? Because that's all it is. It's just a thought. And then the third step in this formula is that you gently and kindly bring your attention back to something positive. So bring it back to your ideal birth scenario, bring your thoughts back to your ideal birth scenario, or your favorite affirmation, I am strong. I am capable of difficult things. Bring it back to something positive. And you just don't give that thought the time of day. Just don't give it any power whatsoever. And this 3-step formula, initially I recommend that you write it down on some post-its and just have them dotted around so that when these negative thoughts do pop up, you can remind yourself of what to do. Don't get angry at yourself, just follow the 3-step formula until eventually that will become muscle memory. You'll remember those 3 steps and you'll know exactly how to handle those little negative thoughts. So just to recap, number 1, you view it neutrally. Number 2, you address it. And number 3, gently and kindly bring your attention back to something positive. And I really, really want to stress the kindly bit. Be kind to yourself, because these negative thoughts are normal. They are human. They are okay. It does not mean that you are failing at hypnobirthing, okay? They are normal, everyday thoughts. So now I just want to talk a little bit about what to do if you get really repetitive, intrusive thoughts. What if there is a particular thought, a particular idea or a theme that is repetitively popping up in your mind, and it's quite a strong thing, and it's something that this 3-step formula, it's just not cutting it. And basically my answer to that would be, if it's something that's repetitive and it's a really intrusive, perhaps an unpleasant thought, then maybe you need to go back and do some more mindset work on it. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of an example of something that happened to me during my second pregnancy. So I am a Taurus, and if you don't believe in horoscopes, that's cool, that's okay, but basically I do believe in horoscopes to an extent, and Taurus are classically stubborn and hot-headed, and I absolutely, that is me down to a T. I am the most stubborn person you will ever meet in your life. Like, I am so stubborn, I would be the last person on a sinking ship. At the end of Titanic, when Rose and Jack, they're hanging onto the ship and they literally don't let go until that ship is like under the water. That would be me. I'm so stubborn that I would not leave a sinking ship. So when I was planning for my home birth, and I was envisaging my ideal birth scenario, I was picturing my home birth in my head, because that's the way that it's most likely to happen with hypnobirthing. What we teach is that if you can envisage the way that you want things to go, then that is the scenario that's more likely to happen, because your energy and your your self-belief and your decisions will all naturally gravitate you more towards that outcome. And so when I was picturing my ideal outcome, I was so stubborn. I'm so stubborn that the idea of something not going my way, so the fact that I might have to transfer to hospital for something outside of my control, or that the midwife that I wanted might not be on call that night, that made me physically sick. The idea of something not going my way made me physically ill. It made me so uncomfortable. And something else that we teach in hypnobirthing is that you have to be okay with your plan B and your plan C and your plan D, because if any part of you feels like those scenarios where things could happen that are completely outside of your control and you do have to adapt to another situation, if any part of you feels that those are failing, if those are wrong, if those are losing, then that's a real there's a real danger that you could end up not having a positive birth experience. And so when I was trying to plan, you go through these different scenarios in your head and you think about different interventions that you might or might not consent to. And with home birth, you think about scenarios where you might consider consenting being transferred to hospital. And when I would think about those scenarios, they made me so uncomfortable, and I absolutely could not get myself to believe that anything other than my ideal birth scenario would be positive. And it was really hard for me. And so I had to do a lot of digging. I did some journaling. I'm a really big fan of journaling for discovering why you think things, of getting really to the root of things, getting to the bottom of why you believe something, why you react a certain way. And so I did some journaling, and I did some what we call free writing, where you just literally put your pen on the paper and you just write. You just write and write and write and write. And it's a bit difficult at first to get yourself started, but eventually things just start emptying out of your head onto the page. It's an amazing practice. I really do recommend that you do this. It's called free writing. Just get yourself some paper and just empty your head onto the paper. And basically I discovered that there were lots of scenarios in my past where if something didn't go my way, or if I was disappointed about something, I was never taught how to handle disappointment. Now, I was raised in the 90s, and if you were also a 90s child, you'll know that mainstream parenting in the 90s was very much about if your child was having big feelings or a tantrum, you either sent them away to their room and told them don't come out until you're calm again, or they'd be shamed or ridiculed. And, that was just parenting in the 90s. That was how everyone parented. It didn't mean there's anything wrong with their parenting. It's just what they knew, And so every time I had a disappointment or had big feelings over something, I would be shamed, or I would be ridiculed. I would be mocked for my big feelings of being disappointed about something, or I'd be sent away. And so I could recall lots of these, to me as a child, there were huge disappointments, and as an adult, it doesn't mean anything. You can be disappointed as a child over the fact that your favourite balloon floats away, or that you didn't get your favourite colour of cup. But to a child, those could be huge disappointments, because you don't have mortgages or jobs or phone bills or whatever. To a child, that's a huge thing. And so I was never taught how to handle disappointment. And as an incredibly stubborn child, an incredibly stubborn person naturally by nature, if something didn't go my way, then I would feel some feelings, man. I would feel big disappointment. I would feel those feelings, but I would be mocked and ridiculed for it. So I was never taught how to handle disappointment. I was never taught how to, how to cope with things not going my way. I was taught just to suppress it, and that feeling any kind of feeling about it was absolutely wrong. So then this spilled over into my adulthood, and if something doesn't go my way, or I'll tell you what, particularly if there's ever a risk of someone around me being able to say, I told you so, or I knew that you'd be wrong about that, or someone else mocking the fact that I'm wrong, if there's any possibility of that, that makes me really, really uncomfortable. It makes me physically sick. And this is exactly what's happening with me and my birth planning. I knew that I wanted a home birth. I knew that was what was right for me and my baby. But also I knew that potentially, as with all births, I mean, although the odds were overwhelmingly in my favour that the home birth was probably going to go well, we know that statistically the odds were in my favour. There's always a tiny small chance that I might have to go to hospital for not necessarily even an emergency, just anything, that there's always that slight chance. But for me, my stubborn, Taurus, hot-headed self that couldn't possibly even consider something not going my way, the idea of transferring made me feel physically sick. Now, of course, there's no way that I would have ever put my baby's life in danger. If truly there was an emergency and the midwives had ever said to me, come on, I think it's time that because of this, that it'd be a good idea for you to transfer to hospital. If at any point that had happened, of course I would have done it. But that would have really, the way that my mindset was during my pregnancy, that would have ruined my entire birth experience. And there's no way that I could have seen that as a positive thing. So I did my journaling, and when this basically all came out onto my paper and I was like, yeah, I know exactly where that's coming from. I know exactly why I think that. And I had to do some forgiveness. I had to forgive my family and my parents for the way I was parented, because ultimately it's just the way that everyone parented in the 90s. We know better now. We know now that kids do need help dealing with disappointment, and that you don't just send them away to their room for tantrums. We know that now, but in the 90s they didn't know that. So I had to forgive my parents for that, and I had to forgive myself as well. I had to do a lot of forgiveness work on myself, because every time this thought would come up, I would get so angry with myself that I was caring more about myself and my discomfort than potentially my baby's safety, and I would get so angry at myself that this was even a thing. So I had to do a lot of forgiveness on myself. And once I figured out where these thoughts were coming from, and I forgave myself, and I basically started to change the way I looked at things. And if there was anyone who could potentially say something like, I told you that home birth wasn't safe, or I knew that you'd end up going in for pain relief, or anything like that, then do you know what? They weren't even worth my time. If somebody was going to say that to me, then yeah, that they're not even worth considering. And so actually an amazing thing happened. Once I did this journaling and this mindset work and this forgiveness, and I'll just also say that I didn't just do this once. I continued journaling for the rest of my pregnancy, and it was so bloody helpful. Like, it really, really helped me figure things out. But yeah, an amazing thing happened. Once I did this forgiveness work, I stopped feeling the need to justify my choices to everybody. Like, I don't know if this is you, but initially in my pregnancy, because I was choosing home birth, which was something that not many people I knew had done. In fact, I think at that point I only knew one person that had home birthed. Yeah, I only knew one person that had home birthed. So everyone that I spoke to, and told them my plans, I'd be really excited, like, oh, I'm planning a home birth. They would automatically say something like, oh, you're brave. What if something goes wrong? What if you want pain relief? Blah, 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 blah. They would automatically be negative about home birth, which is a lot of people's automatic reaction. I would then get really defensive. I would immediately say, well, actually, statistically, you are safe for giving birth at home. I know I can deal with pain, blah, 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 blah. I know I'd have this massive argument with someone who ultimately doesn't even care, and isn't going to change their mind, because they're probably not going to have another baby and they're not in the birth world. So yeah, once I did that mindset work and I did that forgiveness work with myself, I stopped feeling the need to justify myself. It was incredible, this mindset shift, where after that happened, if someone said to me, oh, you're brave giving birth at home, I'd be like, I would just laugh it off. I would shrug. I wouldn't even respond. I would change the subject. I would, ask them how their holiday was. It was an incredible mindset shift. So yeah, this is what I recommend to you. So just to recap everything that I've talked about in this episode, the 3-step formula. If you get these little negative thoughts, these little neggy pop-up thoughts just telling you that you're not strong enough, or you can't cope with pain, or that things are going to go wrong, the 3-step formula: number 1, view it neutrally; number 2, address it; and number 3, gently bring your attention back to something positive. Okay. And then if you get intrusive, really kind of negative thoughts that are consistently popping up again and again and again, then go back to basics and do some mindset work. Okay. Get yourself a journal, get yourself some big bits of paper, and do some free writing. Think about what is coming up and try and figure out where that thought comes from, where that intrusive, that fear, that anxiety, where it comes from, and do some forgiveness work on yourself, and wherever that thought comes from. Okay, so I really hope that you've enjoyed this episode and that you've got something out of it. If you would like to support me and my small business, I absolutely love creating this free content for you. I just absolutely love helping you guys. And if you would like to support me and my small business, there are loads of ways you can do that. One of which, just leave a review. Just leave me a little review on the podcast platform, wherever you're listening to this. Leave me a review, and those help me so much. Or you could share one of my posts on Instagram, interact with one of my stories, engaging in my social media. That really helps. Or if you really, really want to show your support, you can even follow the link in the show notes below and buy me a coffee. And that is so greatly appreciated. Right. So as always, if you have any questions about anything that I've talked about in this episode, if you want to talk about hypnobirthing, want to talk about your mindset, if you have any questions at all, get in touch. Okay, I love to hear from you guys. Right, I will be back next week with another guest episode. It's a good one, they're all good ones. I know I say this quite a lot, it's a juicy one, it's a good one, they're all good ones. Keep coming back, guys. Make sure you're subscribed, and I will speak to you again next week. Okay, bye.